It's strange, isn't it? How silence can sound louder than chaos. The Miami Dolphins said nothing, did nothing, and yet somehow, their quiet might have been the loudest noise of all on trade deadline day. No flashy deals, no breaking news splashes, just the calm surface of an ocean hiding a storm underneath. The kind that makes you wonder what's really going on inside that building, where the air feels heavier than it should, because the phone was ringing. Constantly. That much we know. Calls were made, offers were floated, and every whisper that leaked out had a pulse. The Dolphins didn't move, but that doesn't mean they didn't twitch. It doesn't mean they didn't think about it. And if you believe the reports, some of those conversations went further than anyone wants to admit. Take Pittsburgh, for instance. The Steelers apparently circled Jalen Waddle like a shark that smells blood. Close enough that people around the league started to raise eyebrows, but the Dolphins' interim general manager, whoever's really steering this ship, hesitated. Maybe it was cold feet. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the weight of realizing that trading away one of your brightest young stars mid-season could break more than just the roster's chemistry. Maybe it could fracture the locker room's belief in the project. And then came the real curveball, the Devon-a-chain calls. The kind of calls that don't just happen by accident. Teams knew what they were doing. They'd seen the tape. They'd watched the kid turn corners like he was bending time. A running back who makes every defense look like it's running in slow motion. They called. Over and over. Because that kind of speed doesn't stay hidden. According to Ian Rappaport, Miami got more interest in a chain than almost any player in the league. More than Jalen Phillips. More than Bradley Chubb. Even Waddle. Imagine that. A second-year back, barely scratching the surface, already turning general managers into desperate gamblers. But the price wasn't cheap. Miami reportedly wanted a second-round pick, and something extra. That's something more. Always sounds small until you're the one writing it on the contract. A third-rounder maybe. Or a fourth. Or a player who could fill one of the roster's thin spots. That's where negotiations stall. That's where ambition meets reality. Nobody wanted to pay that much for a running back who, as explosive as he is, still has only flashes of durability and a looming payday coming his way. And yet, can you blame Miami for holding firm? When you've got a weapon like that, a player who can tilt the field with a single touch, do you really let him walk for a pick and a promise? Probably not. The Dolphins knew exactly what they had, even if the rest of the league tried to test their resolve. They set their price, drew the line, and waited. The line never got crossed. Still, the thought lingers. What if they had pulled the trigger? What if the Dolphins, with all the uncertainty swirling above them, had decided to cash in now, when a chain's value might never be higher? What if Waddle, the smiling face of Miami's offense, had been shipped off to Pittsburgh in a last-second stunner? Would anyone have been shocked? Maybe not. That's what happens when a team's foundation starts to crack. Anything feels possible. Because let's be honest, the Dolphins are not exactly in calm waters. They've got an interim general manager making calls that might define the next few years. A head coach standing at the edge of something. Maybe redemption. Maybe the end of his line. And a roster built to win now, even though the front office feels like it's built for later. How long can those two realities coexist before they collide? There's something unsettling about a team that looks so good on paper, but feels so fragile underneath. Every win comes with a question mark. Every loss echoes louder than it should. And every trade rumor, every whisper about a chain or Waddle or anyone else, feels like a symptom of something deeper. Not dysfunction exactly, but uncertainty. The kind that doesn't show up in stats or press conferences, but hangs in the air like humidity in Miami summer. Waddle staying doesn't erase the calls that were made. A chain staying doesn't mean he's safe long-term. These things leave marks. When players hear their names floating in trade talks, it changes something. Maybe not enough to blow up a season, but enough to make people look around the locker room differently. Who's next? Who's really safe? Who's being smiled at today and shopped tomorrow? Miami wanted a first-rounder for Waddle. They made that clear. They wanted something that would justify the noise, the potential backlash, the headlines that would scream betrayal. No one offered it. So he stays. For now. But when a team draws that kind of line, it's only a matter of time before they test it again. And make no mistake, This isn't over. The quiet at the deadline doesn't mean the story ends here. The NFL calendar never really sleeps. Once January hits, the Dolphins front office will look different. The interim tag will be gone. A new general manager will step in, someone with a clean slate and no personal ties to the players he inherits. That's when things start moving again. That's when decisions get made not out of loyalty, but logic, or ego, or vision, whatever word you prefer. Maybe Waddle gets moved before the draft. Maybe a chain becomes the chip that funds a rebuild or retooling, depending on what they want to call it. Because when new leadership arrives, no one is safe, especially the players they didn't choose. That's the cruel truth of it. You can be a star today and a trade piece tomorrow, all because someone new walks in with a different idea of what winning looks like. And what happens then? What happens if the new GM doesn't see a chain as the long-term answer at running back? What if he doesn't want to hand out a big extension to a player who thrives on speed, something that fades faster than teams like to admit? Does a chain hold out next August, waiting for the deal he thinks he deserves? Does Miami cave or call his bluff? It's a loop that's easy to predict and hard to stop. The Dolphins are talented enough to win, flawed enough to worry, and unstable enough to make every rumor believable. Every report feels like a warning. Every decision like a test of how much they really believe in what they've built. Maybe the most haunting part is how ordinary it all sounds. Teams call, offers come, negotiations stall. It's the NFL cycle. But in Miami's case, the pattern feels heavier. The stakes feel higher. Because this isn't just about draft picks and cap space. It's about identity. About whether this team is still the fast, fearless, creative offense that took the league by storm, or if it's slowly becoming something else. Something more cautious, more uncertain, more human. You can sense it, the tension between staying patient and staying relevant. The front office wants flexibility, the players want faith, and the fans just want to believe that this version of the Dolphins can finally be the one that lasts. But how do you hold faith when the people in charge keep changing? When every offseason feels like another experiment? That's what makes these reports hit differently. They're not just gossip. They're reflections of where the team really stands. You don't entertain trade calls for your stars if you're completely secure in your plan. You don't pick up the phone that often unless you're at least curious about what the future might look like without them. Maybe that curiosity turns into conviction by March. Maybe the new GM decides to reset the timeline, trade a name or two, and call it a bold move toward the future. Or maybe the Dolphins double down, bet on continuity, and prove everyone wrong. Either way, these decisions will define what kind of team they become, not just in the standings, but in spirit. For now, all we have is the silence after the storm, the deals that didn't happen, the players who stayed, the phone calls that were made but never led to signatures, and beneath all that quiet, the faint hum of something unresolved, something waiting. Because deep down, you can feel it, this story isn't done. The Dolphins didn't make a move at the deadline, but they moved something inside everyone watching. They made us wonder. Wonder what they're hiding. Wonder what they're planning. Wonder how long they can stand still before the next wave hits.